we filled the magazine and it went bonkers, and people in the Midwest love it. People all over the country. In fact, internationally it goes now. And this is our 5th-year issue coming out. The fall issue is our 5th anniversary. So we're really excited about it. It's actually our 31st issue.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Hi, and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. I hope you're doing really well today, and I hope that you're living life to the fullest. Now, speaking of living life to the fullest, my next guest is celebrating some amazing things, and we're going to be talking about all of these things. We're going to be unpacking her life, and with all that being said, I'd love to welcome to the show Jackie Bertolette. How are you, Jackie?
Hi, I am great. How are you doing?
I'm very well. I like to say I have 2 feet and a heartbeat. I can't complain too much. Now, for everybody who's joining us on the call today, thank you once again for doing that. But Jackie has a very interesting backstory, and we're going to go into the core of that momentarily. But before we do that, Jackie, it's customary for us to learn a little bit more about you first. So I think it's probably a good place to start to learn a little bit more about maybe where you're located and what you like to do in your downtime, in your recreation time. Do you have such a thing?
I do, kind of, a little bit. So what do I like to do in my downtime is actually what I love to do at work. So I'm very, very blessed to be able to do what I love. So I'm a degreed commercial photographer, and my passion is editorial fashion.
Yep.
And so as life rolled out over the years, I'm now obviously the editor of a magazine that I had founded, and I do all of the main editorial fashion. So I spend a lot of my downtime editing the photos and setting up the models and making connections, and then as far as personally, I love spending time with my kids, especially my youngest. I do homeschool him. And so we do a lot, well, not so much now, obviously, but we used to do a lot of trips, like field trips and things, so he could have hands-on education. So we do a lot of games and things now at home together, and that's really been an interesting journey for us. So.
Thank you for sharing, Jackie. There's lots to unpack here, and I'd love to swing back to the fact that you're now deeply involved with something that you love, because I think that's a very important element to living your best life and doing it and living a life that you really want to live through your business. But before we do that, I'd love to learn a little bit more about some of the challenges that have come from doing homeschooling and how it's affected your business. Would you be able to share a little bit about that?
Absolutely, I'd be glad to. So I know most of at least most of our country in the U.S., I'm assuming the world has gone to online remote school. And we actually have been doing that this is our 5th year, I believe. Yeah, 7th grade. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Time flies.
we've been doing it a lot longer than most people. So it's a little bit easier of a transition than it has been for a lot of folks this year and the end of last year. But we started out homeschooling because my son, way back in his infancy, had a very serious illness that left him with some medical issues. And while for the most part he is totally on track and on target,
Fantastic.
he does have some, thank you, he does have some learning delays, and he can learn. It just, he needs to learn in a completely different way than typical students.
Yep.
So the brick and mortar school was, even though they wanted and tried so desperately to work with him, they just couldn't give him the attention that he needed. He needed one-on-one. He needed reassurance. He needed reinforcement. He would forget what we learned yesterday, and then the teachers would be frustrated. Well, you just learned that.
Mm-hmm.
So it just became apparent after 1st grade that he had to be homeschooled, because he would have breakdowns in school because everything was too hard. He was being bullied. It was a mess. So Yeah, so we ended up coming homeschool. My first year was crazy. It was so confusing.
Can
So
imagine.
I totally get why everybody's so confused. But we figured it out together. And at the time, I actually had my daughter as well, an older child. We were doing homeschooling for the first time with her too. So she has since graduated. My oldest son graduated some time ago.
Excellent.
So yeah, so we have been homeschooling now for 5 years,
Hmm.
and I think at this point our biggest challenge is staying focused, like most children. Um, when
Do
you're
they have that
homeschooling,
nowadays? Do they? Focus.
yeah, yeah. When you're homeschooling, the day is a lot faster. It goes a lot quicker as long as you're on task.
Hmm.
But it also can be a lot longer if you're not on task. So some days are pulling teeth and some days aren't. So
Yeah. As somebody who is a leader in business, you absolutely need to have structure in your day. Does that flow into, I guess, the structure that you use in your homeschooling with your children? Do you think?
absolutely, we have a start time,
Hmm.
and for my son, he needs frequent breaks. So we work about 30 minutes, and then he gets a small break,
Hmm.
and then in between each class, he gets a 15 to 20-minute break. Um, so there are structures that we follow just regularly for him. He just needs to have sort of the brain moment where he can, sort of reset.
Yeah.
Um, And then once our school day is over, we'll do school at one end of of the kitchen table, and then we close that computer, and he goes off and does whatever his desire is for the day, and then I scoot to the other end of the table and turn on my work computer. Then I become a CEO and a businesswoman.
Well, and I have to say, Jackie, this is the real reason that I love being the host of the show so much, because it brings out not only the business side, it brings out the, I guess, the human side, the fact that there are people behind businesses, and that's one of the things that I think stands out in terms of the value that the show adds. So thank you very much for sharing. Now, I think it's a good dovetail into all of the work that you're doing. Now, let's talk about something that you're celebrating. Could you share a little bit about your magazine with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So way back in college, I knew I wanted to be in fashion,
Hmm.
but I never knew back then that I would own the magazine that I had dreamed of working for. So about 5 years ago, my husband and I, sort of sat down together and decided, after several years with my son, I had to come home from working a full-time job because he needed full-time care after
Yeah.
his illness.
Hmm.
And so we had gotten used to doing a one income family. And so my husband and I talked about it, and I said, honey, I need to do something more than just this. I just can't sit still.
Got to scratch the
So
itch.
yes. So he said, well, you're a great photographer. Why don't you start the magazine you always talk about working for? And I'm like, what are you talking about? That's silly. But after a little bit of thinking, I was like, wait a minute, I could, because I have a background in photography. I have a background in fashion design. I have a background in graphic design. I'm a creative writer. So I'm like, I could do all this.
Yep.
But the only thing I don't do is hair and makeup. I'm just not, there's no zero talent there. So,
Well, you got to know your strengths, don't you?
yeah, exactly, right. So, yeah, from that moment of sort of a revelation, about 6 months later, I was putting together my first issue, booking models and setting up designers. And the first one was a little bit difficult because people didn't, like, there was no physical magazine for people to see. And so getting people kind of to see my vision was a little difficult, but we filled the magazine, and from the second it released, it went bonkers, and people in the Midwest love it. People all over the country, in fact, internationally, it goes
Hmm.
now. It's insane. And this is our fifth year issue coming out. The fall issue is our fifth anniversary, so we're really excited about it. It's actually our 31st issue. So
That's fantastic news. Congratulations. And
mhm.
I've actually
Thank
looked at
you
some of
so
the
much.
images throughout the website, and there are some beautiful images on there. There's certainly lots to take in. You also are involved in other parts of business. Would you be able to talk about those for a little bit?
Absolutely. So they're all kind of related. People
Mm-hmm.
kind of go, how do you run all these businesses? But it's really all the same thing. It's just compartmentalized.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I am obviously a commercial photographer. I do fashion design in that I am your quintessential model type. I am 6 foot tall and have been very thin all my life. So I started sewing when I was very young because clothes didn't fit me. So over the years, I became a fashion designer quite inadvertently. So I have that background. And so I run my fashion line, RJ Luna Haute Clothier, which are all handmade couture pieces. I also manage models under Discovered Model Scouting and Management, DMSM. And these are models that have aspirations in the industry,
Mm-hmm.
usually, but not always, younger. But if they're like early teens, my goal with them is to teach them how to be safe in the industry or safer in the industry.
Yes.
Um, yeah, kind of get them on a safe path, introduce them to people that I know are going to take care of them, and, kind of lead them in the right direction because it can be a scary industry.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for sharing this, Jackie. It's great content. I wonder, from I guess, an operational standpoint, what are some of the things that you have had to learn running all of these different businesses in tandem over the years?
Mm.
Did
Well,
it
I
come
think
naturally to you to run businesses? I suspect it did.
um, it's natural to me to do what I do
Mm-hmm.
as far as the creative end. The business end is not natural for me at all, and I do struggle with that daily. I have done everything from taking classes to bought, office work for dummies, all the way down the line.
I've got a few of them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I built a website. I didn't know how to do that. That was a how to build a website for dummies. I
Yep.
actually then I bought how to do this for dummies. I actually trademarked my fashion line logo, which was crazy. So you
It's a
just research.
process.
Yeah, you learn it, you want it, you research it. I would I did do some YouTubing, but I get leery of YouTube because, you never know what's real on the internet.
Oh
So,
no. Yep. Yep.
yeah, but I also have been privileged that my mother has been administrative assistant all of her life. She did not get the creative gene.
She missed out.
Yeah. So she handles all of like the business end of things and kind of corrects me when I do something that's not right. Oh, you can't
Uh-huh.
do that in your accounting and stuff. So so she mentors me through it and corrects me and raps me on the knee and the knuckles when I screw up.
Like a good mum should.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder,
So
what's the name of the magazine?
it is called Haute Ohio. That's Haute. It is a French word. It's part of haute couture, which is basically handmade high fashion out of Paris. So it's
Beautiful.
Ohio's version of haute couture.
I'd love to go back to that I guess the genesis of the starting of this wonderful magazine. I know that we've talked about you needing to scratch that itch. You wanted to do something more. You had all these skill sets. You wanted to bring them together. But what is the actual
Mm-hmm.
the mechanics of starting a magazine?
Well, I tell you what the hardest part for me was figuring out how to um, actually like publish the magazine, like the output of it.
Hmm.
The content was easy for me because I just tend to, I just know how to do that stuff.
Yeah.
So for me, it was absolutely okay, now I have all this content. Now, how do I put it out there publicly? I need a publisher, I need, physical paper, all that stuff. So that was the hardest part for me. Um, but I figured it out. Again, it was, lots of research on the internet. It was lots of research, polling friends, polling content, going on Facebook groups and asking lots of questions.
Mm.
So I did end up finding one place that hosts my magazine. Um, and you can order it there either for a digital download or for a print and ship directly to your door. So that's pretty cool.
Fantastic. I wonder, given everything that's going on in the world, we're seeing some shifts to online. We've touched on that, Jackie, just slightly. What do you see
Mhm.
happening in the fashion industry in, say, maybe the next 12 to 24 months?
Well, I think obviously, everything's going to be online just like it is now.
Mm.
We're even already, I also run Ohio Fashion Week, which is an annual gala affair.
Hmm.
And we're even already starting to entertain whether we're going to hold next year's. We did cancel this year's because of COVID, because of the restrictions on our state. And so while everything is in position as far as talent is hired and all that, I think in-person stuff is going to be a huge challenge still next year. So I think people will continue with virtual fashion shows. People will continue with virtual magazines and publications. And I also think this has been interesting to watch. And someday I'd like to get on the bandwagon when I have some time. But
25th
um,
hour of the week,
yeah,
25th hour of
exactly.
the day.
Yeah, the day, right? To watch people sort of springing up doing their own podcast and doing their own sort of talk shows on fashion and that sort of thing. Like all of these, like people who are just interested in fashion or people who just graduated from college and have a problem getting a job right now. So they're finding ways to create content that people desire. So that's really interesting to see the YouTube, blowing up that way.
Hmm.
Zoom is going crazy with conferencing as far as designers meeting with each other and models, of course, and connections. So it's really interesting to see how people are sort of reinventing the industry.
Yes, thank you for sharing. There's lots to unpack here. I'd love to shift gears and talk just a little bit about your work in photography and ask you for um, anybody who wants to get into that industry. One, is it expensive? And two, is it difficult to learn, or do you need to have that creative flair?
I think like most things, uh, it can be taught. It's a science.
Mm.
Um, so you can teach the science part of it. You can teach how to use the equipment. You can teach lighting. You can teach, the balancing. What I don't think you can teach is the compositions and the creative direction. That sort of has to come from within you.
Within.
So you need to have both ends of it in order to be successful. But there are many ways that you can be successful in photography. You can be, a lifestyle photographer, or you can be a portrait, obviously, wedding photographer. But you also could be um, a fine art photographer. That's really a growing field.
Mm.
And there's no rules in fine art. You can do whatever you want, and people are just like, wow, that is so cool. So, yeah, so it can be a very expensive endeavor to get started. Of course, I have higher end Nikon equipment, but I don't have professional equipment because, excuse me, I feel like if you know your equipment and you have the eye, you don't need all the high end, I don't want to make a $5,000 investment. I already did that in college. So, I can use my iPhone and still make a beautiful shot, but even my Nikon is only an expensive hobby camera. So the body is not as important as the glass or the lens itself. So,
I want to dig a
uh,
little bit deeper, if I could, Jackie, in terms of having, I guess, a model's perspective, somebody who thinks about being behind the lens in terms of being the model. Does that help you take better shots, different perspectives, different angles?
mhm.
Would you say that would be
Yes,
true?
I definitely say it's true. That is sort of my aesthetic. I tend to do things a little bit off kilter, a little bit distorted, a little bit more unusual. Some
Hmm.
people don't like it, but I think a lot of people, especially in fashion, really have an affinity for it. I think you can definitely tell when I've taken the image because there's a certain I don't know, a perspective in it that just says, "Oh, Jackie took this." So
It's a brand as
I,
well,
I, I
isn't it?
lean towards the bizarre. So
Would you say that would be recognisable as a brand
I
almost?
think so. Yeah, I think so.
Fantastic. I now that we've talked about the photography and the number of people that you work with through your organisation. Um, can anybody become a model? And what do they need
Mm-hmm.
a particular look? What's the process for taking on
Mm-hmm.
models?
Mm-hmm. So in the general industry, that the tradition has been the quintessential model. You have to be tall and thin, and you have to be just this or just so. But because I own the magazine, I get to make the rules. And
Fantastic.
for me, my rules are that there's beauty in everybody. So I want to see plus size models. I want to see challenged models. I want to see, of course, the quintessential model as well, but
Hmm.
I want to see kids. I want to see mature. I want to see tattoos. There's beauty in everybody. And for me, if you're interested in modeling, regardless of, male, female, age, it doesn't matter. We want to help you at least try it. Um, it may not be something that you love after you try it, and that's cool. It was a simple, fun evening. But if it is something that you want to do, then this is a way for you to sort of dabble in it before you move to New York and go full-fledged into it. It's I accept all models,
Yeah.
all ranges, all races. So when we do submissions, what happens is we'll call for submissions for the magazine shoots, and it's wide open, and then we review all the submissions, and we choose usually around 10.
Hmm.
Depends on what the magazine pages will allow us for each issue. And I actually strive for diversity. So I won't kick you out just because you are a perfect model, but at the same time, I want to see somebody who's unique and different and see them, be beautiful as well. So,
I love the fact that you're doing this and you're breaking the mold. It's not a cookie cutter approach, and I would say you probably are helping people build their confidence. Have you seen changes
mhm.
in the models that you've worked with that maybe didn't have much experience, then they've grown over time with you?
Yes, I have. I actually have two models that I, for the first time, worked with before they signed with me. They since have signed, but the one little girl started with me she was doing a little pageant locally, and I was coaching, runway coaching for the producer.
Hmm.
And she was so scared. She was maybe 5 years old. She was
Oh.
so scared she would not let go of my leg. So I'm trying to coach this whole class, and she's like clinging to me. Um, and by the end of our sessions, she did her own runway walk, and that was really awesome. But now, 2 years later, this little young lady cannot get on the runway often enough. She's always calling me, "Can we photograph?" Her mom will be calling, "Oh, and this girl's driving me crazy. We need to get her in front of a camera."
That's
So
wonderful.
it's so awesome to see the blossom come out of her. And then I had one other model who started out at 19 with me, and it also was a local mall show that I met her at. I was judging one of the contests she was in. She is a challenged model. She has Down syndrome,
Hmm.
and she's also a cancer survivor. And she has gone from never walking a runway to being on covers. She just got an international cover again. She's walked in Paris. She's walked in Milan. She's booked to walk in Dubai.
Oh, wow,
Um,
amazing.
this girl is crazy. I mean,
Crushing
she
it.
went from, yes. So it's about your dedication and your confidence in yourself. It's the industry is opening up slowly. So I'm so happy to see that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing these stories. It gives people hope that maybe sitting out in the audience, Jackie, that, hey, you know what, maybe I can do this, and maybe I will give it a go.
Hmm.
Now, I want to shift gears and talk about your website and the content that I'm finding out on there. You
Hmm.
have some wonderful products. Can you tell us a little bit about the calendars that are coming out?
Yes, we actually, this is going to be the first year that we're doing them for 2021. And we had planned initially to just do one calendar, which would be 100% inclusive. But we had so many submissions of models who had dreams of being calendar models that we ended up planning to do three. So we're going to be doing a youth calendar, a men's calendar, and a women's calendar. and they're everyone from never been in front of a camera before in their lives to highly experienced models. And in fact, we just shot, well, probably 30% of it this past yesterday. So, I book with them on their individual shoots, and
Mm-hmm.
then we go out, socially distant and safe, of course.
Yes.
And yeah, and we're shooting the calendar as we speak. And I come home and I edit them, and then I get them in the calendar set. Those calendars will be released, hopefully a little earlier, but at the latest December 15th. And you can purchase them directly off the website.
I've always loved theme calendars. Are you doing any theme calendars?
We haven't yet, but we are talking about doing that next year. We're actually talking about doing quarterly calendars where they're focused on, like the spring is focused on one particular type of model, and the summer is focused on a different type of model. So we're looking at compartmentalizing the calendars next year for
Fantastic.
2022.
Awesome. So there's lots of great stuff coming up out of your stable. I'm wondering when people go and find your website, what are they going to see when they get there?
The homepage is going to see all of the current issues and links to purchase them. You're going to find any information on there that is happening at the moment as far as open castings that we might be hosting, events that are coming up that we are producing. And then you'll also, of course, see all of the sponsors for our Ohio Fashion Week. They're always on there. We thank them so much. And then if you dig deeper into the website, you're going to find the whole archives of all of our issues from start to current. You're going to find how to submit to be part of either as a designer or a model. And we highlight Midwest, in the United States,
Mm-hmm.
but we go international. In fact, our summer issue has designers from Madagascar in it.
Oh wow.
So it's international. Even though we focus on the Midwest, we certainly are not limited to the Midwest. So you'll
It's a
find all
borderless.
of those, yeah, and you'll find all those deadlines and all those submission guidelines there. You do not have to be experienced. You just have to want to try it and be willing to, bring your A game to us. And Ohio Fashion Week, everything's there. You'll also find current events that are happening around the Midwest. So,
Just so we can
and my
educate.
blog.
Oh, of course. Go ahead.
Yeah, my blog there too.
So, for those who are wanting to submit content, they want to get involved with this magazine. Are there usually like deadlines and cut-offs, and what's the
hmm
cycle throughout the year to submit content?
hmm Yes, we are quarterly. So we have winter, obviously spring, summer, and fall. Our deadlines are the 20th of the month prior to publication. So our fall issue just came out. Our winter 2021 issue will come out December 22nd. So the deadline is going to be November 20th. And that's how that rolls down the way. We do accept outside columns. We do accept contributions as far as articles. Of course, models and photographers who want to be, published, we offer that opportunity. But if you want to be inside the magazine as far as a model, you probably need to start watching our website, say in January for the spring issue, because we'll shoot like in February. So,
Yes, as I'm sure there's a lot of work that goes on in the background. Jackie,
hmm
this has just been such a wonderful call. Now, most importantly, when people want to find this magazine and get involved, where are they going to go?
You can absolutely do all of that from hauteohio.com, HAUTEOHIO. You can do subscriptions there. You can do links to any of the magazines. You can seek sponsorship there for Ohio Fashion Week, advertising if you want to be part of that, or of course contribution or content. You can also find us on Facebook at Haute Ohio Magazine and
Mhm.
Ohio Fashion Week. And then we're on Instagram and Twitter and YouTube as OHFW_official.
Fantastic. Well, just to back that up, I'll be making sure that all of the links back to this wonderful magazine are made available below this post. In fact, no matter where you see or hear this interview, you will have links back to that website. And with all that being said, Jackie, in closing, thank you so very much for spending some time with me on the My Future Business show today.
Oh, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.